This is the Hagmann and Hagmann report for today. It's Wednesday, December 26, 2012. This is a live broadcast. I'm Doug Hagmann. I'm the co-host along with my son, Joe Hagmann. We're both co-hosts of the Hagmann and Hagmann report. Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to hear 3 hours of unbiased and uncensored news, analysis, and information that you need to know in these times, which are very perilous. And for new listeners, just to let everyone know, we broadcast live each and every weeknight from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find us on the internet at HomelandSecurityUS.com. That's HomelandSecurityUS.com. And we can also watch us as well. We simulcast in high-definition video on Christians United Broadcasting Network. And we're going to be ramping that up after January 1st. I'll be back on video as well. Gives me, actually, it just gave me time to, of course, our hair and makeup people aren't, they were on strike. So, anyway, you're welcome.
Union thing.
Yeah, it was a union thing.
Glad to be here. Heard you had a good third hour of the show last night as I skipped out early.
Yes. You ran out while you're like your pants were on fire.
That was my Christmas present.
It's
the 1 hour early off. Now we're back to business here. We got a great show planned for you guys tonight. Actually, I shouldn't say planned. We got a great show we're going to do for you guys tonight, and we want you to get involved.
Joe, I just want to say this. This Christmas we were blessed by you, by your presence on our the greatest Christmas present that I've could ever ask for, receive. You too. I mean, we both talked about this, Joe. Nothing material, nothing financial. Your prayers and your presence. The two things that we cherish the most, your prayers and your presence. Your presence to be with us, to spend 3 hours with us every night, or when you can, and your prayers for our continuation of our program. And then, of course, we're thankful to those people as well who help keep us on the air, help pay our bills, because that's a big issue as well, and we thank you for that. But we have, and Joe and I were talking this week. We did spend some time talking about business, and you mentioned something, and it just resonated with me that the people who interact in the chat room on a regular basis, those people who are not paid shills to come in and disrupt, they're the greatest. And seriously, we have the most well-behaved and most honorable, most dignified, most, I don't know, what would you call it, family, type of unit within our chat room.
Yes, there is a fellowship there, and it is very close and very friendly atmosphere, a family-like atmosphere, and we can't thank you guys enough for spending your time with us every single night. Those of you who do it live or via archive,
that's right,
on your phones or iTunes or however you listen.
And both you and I, this is something we're talking about, again, we might as well just record some of our conversations. We learn so much from our listeners. Our listeners, you people who send emails saying, just a tremendous number of emails, for example, about the Newtown shooting, about different nuances there, comments about various articles that appear on our website, that's HomelandSecurityUS.com, and by the way, also at CanadaFreePress.com. Folks, bookmark CanadaFreePress.com, visit their site. They've got just a tremendous stable of writers and people who really go after the truth.
And that truth is influencing many people in America here as well as Canada.
Yeah, exactly. But certainly Joe and I are blessed with your presence, and we feel very humbled to be in your presence. And we hope that at the end of tonight, like every night, but tonight, that you will leave the program a little more knowledgeable, a little more educated as to what's going on. And that's just something that
we hope so too.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah, I don't know where you guys are all tonight listening from live. Hopefully, some of you are in a warm tropical area where there are palm trees swaying. Some of you, like us, might be in the Antarctic blizzard we have going on outside. But either way,
we actually right now we've got about 15 inches of snow that just fell outside of our studio.
All at once. No, we forecast. They said about 6 to 10, then they changed the forecast from like 8 to 14 or 16. So it's going to be a long night.
We're looking
probably lots of shoveling tomorrow morning.
Yeah, we're looking at the now the window of our studio. We've got one window in our studio now that overlooks this kind of like a field area, the wooded area, and it's white. It's white. Yeah, it's white. In fact, the window itself is white now because of the snow that's on there. But
one last note on the weather: it took me almost an hour to drive about 6.5 miles to get here, and that was this afternoon. So going home, I can't wait to see what it's like after it has been snowing the same amount as it was before I left.
Yeah, exactly.
I might leave actually in 10 minutes. So I can get home.
Of course, a repeat of Christmas night, and thanks for joining us on Christmas night. Those of you who did, I will be putting up the archives, even from the archive from last. When we interviewed with Marika Pashman, I still haven't.
We did that Monday. Or no, not Monday. I'm sorry. Friday.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to do that. What I was trying to do was I was trying to cut out some of the problems we had because we lost power right before the show. So I was trying to trim that audio down, and I haven't been able to do that. So, but the archives will be going up after the show tonight. I want to thank you for your patience on that. The archives via our website. Now you can always get them by clicking on in the right-hand column, the RSS feed.
I was just so fascinated by that interview from a technical standpoint because our cell phones are horrible around here. And I conducted with you when you were on and off partially during that interview. I conducted that from my cell phone that usually would drop the call 3 or 4 times from the studio to getting to my car, even areas I drive home in. On my cell phone, from the studio to my house while I was driving.
Which is an amazing feat.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I couldn't believe the thing was coherent. So,
well, no, I wouldn't. You were clear, coherent. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, you did a very, very good job picking that up.
And it's funny, we had about 2 inches of snow that night, and the power goes out. Now we got about 7 out there.
It's about 40 mile an hour winds, by the way, as well. Yeah, and that's right. But again, just for the people out there, you think you've got the backup plans. We have generator power here for the studio to power up the computers and the phones.
It's not as ready as we think.
Yeah, so the lesson here is test your backup power before an actual emergency arises, because if you don't...
Yeah, word of advice to those with generators, please don't run them in the house unless you have a good exhaust system. That's all I got to say.
Or in an office when other people could perhaps complain. Yeah, never mind.
Anyway, we'll get to the news now. We're going to take calls. We'll probably do it at the second half of the show or third hour of the show.
If you can just
hold your calls, as we have a lot of news and news clips we want to get into. First of all, we're going to continue talking about the gun bans that are being called for by different talking heads, whether they are celebrities, cops, United Nations people, government authorities. The Attorney General, the top Democrats in the Senate, Al-Qaeda, et cetera, et cetera. But we got a lot of other stuff we're going to get into.
Hey, can I read the email
tornadoes yesterday?
Wait. Can I read this email I just got?
Sure.
I just want to say hello to Stuart. Stuart, I'm going to read your email on air. I don't have your permission to do so, but I'm not, of course, releasing any. I'm just saying this is from Stuart. It's a paragraph. Hey, are you controlled opposition? Are you, Doug, Mr. Doug? Are you in favor of government security? Are you for the Nazi perpetual war economy? You are, aren't you? Your mission is to spread disinformation, lies, and fear among Americans. And you're just like the adage goes, you must show your true colors for everyone to see in order in order to be legit. Am I right? Huh. Well, your logo. It's a form of the Nazi swastika, complete with one red arm symbolizing the Fourth Reich. And the red arm happens to be facing east. How about that? Hey, occultism is everywhere.
Oh, my goodness.
Even among those claiming to be Christian. Ooh, I can't say that word.
So I had a question. I want to ask Stuart. I hope you're listening. If I were to say, I don't know, stab myself in the eye and poke my eye out, and I wore an eye patch for the rest of my life, does that mean I'm automatically a lifetime Illuminati member?
No, you're a pirate.
But what about, it's one eye, it's the one eye symbolism. I mean, is this really what we're getting to?
See,
and I understand they're concerned about controlled opposition, because I found a U.S. military influence operations guide where they get into so much of this stuff: controlled opposition, propaganda and counter-propaganda, psychological operations, counterintelligence. It's a real thing. And if I didn't know you personally...
If you didn't know me?
Yeah. You know how I don't trust people. I would question you.
Well, and it's kind of funny because I had this conversation while you were taking a nap at your desk.
I did take a short nap there.
and really, the way I look at it, the conversation went from actually with and Keith wouldn't mind me saying this. Keith Hansen from the Keith Hansen Show out of Naples, Florida. Great guy, and we were talking about this too. About the DHS insider information. I said, if I didn't know this guy, I mean, it's surreal, isn't it?
It is surreal. But the one problem that these people seem to have that are trying to call you out, they're not citing the legislation that says, hey, yeah, we are allowed to indefinitely detain you without any evidence and kill you. We have over 180 operational FEMA camps, and we have the country broken down into 10 FEMA regions where there are fusion centers where we collect all your information.
That's one thing I didn't get into, though.
Billions of bullets. We have billions or millions of pillbox checkpoints. We have basically a blueprint laid out how to control each and every individual and their person's movement across the United States to be implemented in a day's notice if we want to. But forget all that. You're a kook.
Well,
fearmonger.
And I was talking to Steve Quayle, I think it was this morning. My goodness, these days run together when you're 24/7 almost. It seems like you're... But I think this morning, it was this morning. And I happened to... I was talking to him about a particular internet web forum. This web forum, Time Bomb 2000.
I saw that. This is so funny.
Well, and look, I don't mind people questioning the source or the information. Look, I fully expect that.
Right, and we always say, don't trust the information. Take it to the Lord and pray for discernment and get the answer for yourself.
Yeah, and that's right. And do your own research as well, because just do it. I mean, but so anyway. Somebody had sent me an email saying, hey, you got to check out Time Bomb 2000. They're talking about your article. So I figured, okay, what the heck? And I figured, okay, I don't expect anyone or everyone to agree with me. I mean, heck, sometimes I have like fights in my own head. Sometimes it's like, geez. But anyway, it was funny because a whole bunch of people say, well, if he can't reveal his source, that's baloney, and on and on and on and on and on. And why should we take him at his word? He's making stuff up, and so. And folks, if you Time Bomb 2000, there's I don't even know what kind of form it is, but so I'm figuring, okay, that's fine. I mean, it wasn't too bad, and then it was a couple of posts or a couple of forum entries later, not on the same thread as they call them, but a couple of entries later, where the owner of the forum, I believe his name is Dennis Olson, or that's the poster. And it's his house, so I respect him for what he does, and I respect everyone's opinion. Look, you've got an opinion, that's fine. But I believe he chimed in and said, well, there's no proof, and it's fear-mongering, whatever.
That very next thread is,
yeah, it's like, I got information from someone. I can't tell you what it is. I can't tell you who it is, but I trust them. And it's like, get out of Dodge right now.
Same information you present.
Well, no, it was just, actually, it was only like, things are happening now where you've got to get out of town now, or you got to protect yourself. I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, what's the difference? And look, and Steve, God bless him. I love the guy. But he spends a lot of time on his critics. And it seems like I'm doing that now. I don't mean to, but I'm just trying to show like the what we do. There's that word, dichotomy or whatever. The difference between but I guess it's who you trust, and it's a matter of trust because I believe, and Joe, you and I think I've raised you from a young man that trust, integrity is everything, character is everything. At least I tried to. Character. If you lose character, if you lose integrity, you'll never get it back. So never ever lose character or integrity.
I can remember one of the first times getting in trouble as a child. My father taking me to the police station.
Yes, I did.
And telling me about integrity and character.
Let me tell you something, folks. And Dad's...
And I remember it. I remember it to this day.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you something. Parents out there, it's my view where if when you become... And you're finding this out, Joe. When you become a parent, what they have to do is like... all the pharmacies, all you have to do is like prove that you're a parent. The pharmacy should open up the door and allow you to have whatever Valium or no, I'm just kidding about that. But no,
you mean that the children can be sometimes troubling beyond the help of
no. I joke and I shouldn't joke, but seriously, but you grow from that, and you learn from that. And as a parent, that's a very difficult thing to do, to take your own child to the police station and say, look, this is, you didn't listen to me. You did something wrong.
Yeah.
And here's the price you got to pay.
I'm going to say he is consistent. It happened more than once.
Yep. And
I deserved every bit of it.
But I'll tell you what, though. You know what? You're a fine young man, and I'm very proud of you. So.
Well, thank you. I want to talk about a White House petition. There's been lots of talk about White House petitions lately in the media. This one is kind of interesting. Over 75,000 people have signed a petition to deport Piers Morgan. People might wonder why. Why do you want to deport Piers Morgan? Well, he's an anchor on CNN, the communist news network, over there advocating gun control. And interestingly enough, the UK started their own petitions. We don't want him back. But here's an audio clip with Piers Morgan debating with Jesse Ventura on gun control.
Back now with Jesse Ventura and our live studio audience. Gun control. This is something I've been very animated about all this year with all the various gun outrages, especially the appalling thing at the cinema in Colorado. Yeah. Why is it that Americans, to me it seems, so many Americans cannot divorce their right to defend themselves with a gun to the apparent right to go and buy 6,000 rounds of ammunition, high-powered assault weapons, and go and murder Americans?
Well, the best thing I can tell you, Piers, is this. Mexico has strict gun control. You cannot own a gun in Mexico. And they had 20,000 people dead last year in the drug cartel wars.
But Mexico has a very particular problem involving drugs. I can cite to you Britain, average... Well, let me just throw it back at you. In Britain, for example, an average of 35 people a year are murdered with guns. In Germany, it's about 40 to 50. France, the same. Spain, the same. Italy, there's a pattern here. America, 11 to 12,000 a year.
Yeah.
This country has more guns than anybody else,
yeah,
and more gun murders.
Yeah.
It's inarguable, isn't it?
No, not at all.
It is.
Because I was in the Philippines, physically, the day Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law and made himself a dictator, and the first thing that dictator did, he gave the people of the Philippines 2 weeks to turn in all their guns or it was the death penalty. Now, why would a dictator do that? Why would he make his number one priority when he took over as dictator to disarm the public? The Second Amendment is there, and it was put in there not for hunting and fishing like they like to say, because back when they did it, if you didn't hunt or fish, you didn't eat. It was put in there so the citizens would have the ability, if their government became oppressive, they could defend themselves against oppressive government. And I think that overrules all the gun deaths, because let's remember something. A gun is simply a tool. I have a gun safe at home, and I've never come home and heard those guns going off on their own. People kill people. All right, how many people here die because of car accidents of drunk driving? Do we go to the Ford Motor Company and tell them stop making these automobiles because people get drunk and kill people in cars?
It's a facile argument.
It's a what?
It's a facile argument. There's no equivalence between drunk driving and lethal firearms. My point
Wait a minute. A car is a 2,000-pound projectile that can go 100 miles an hour.
I have no problem with an American believing that their right under the Constitution is that they can defend themselves, especially in their own home, if they're being attacked and they have a weapon.
It's also against government.
I have a big problem with a disturbed young man, as we saw in Colorado, being able to buy 6,000 rounds of ammunition and a high-powered assault weapon and go into a movie theater and blow away 70 Americans. I have a big problem with that.
Well,
and nobody else in America in high office seems to share that big problem.
Well, I'll tell you what, Piers. I have a conceal and carry license. Had I been in there, I would have taken this guy out before he could have killed that many people.
Well, I think that, again...
But because, let's remember, police can't stop crimes. Police show up after they're over. Remember that. So when you talk about me not being able, if there would have been a legitimate conceal and carry in that theater, quite possibly they could have taken this guy out and saved people's lives.
Or you could have had the gunfight at the OK Corral in there and lost even more lives, couldn't you? That's what could happen. Anyway, let's take a break.
What roll of the dice would you like? You'd prefer to be unarmed? How many people here think I make crackpot points?
Yeah?
One. How many think I make sensible points? You're in the minority, my good friend. You're the minority.
I said you made some sensible points. Let's go to another audience question from Jared Grossman.
All right, there you have it. Jesse Ventura arguing with the unwanted in England and USA, Piers Morgan. He makes some very common sense points. And Piers Morgan tends to shut up while he's talking, which is a good thing because he can't really argue with the Second Amendment. He can't argue with history. He can't argue with the facts that gun control equals genocide. That, yes, there are people that use tools to kill other people. Some of those tools are more often than not guns because that is the weapon of choice right now. But if guns weren't around, there would be another number one weapon of choice to kill people with. So,
well, I think it's important that we have to remember that the reason for gun ownership is, I mean,
like I said in the interview,
yeah,
the founding fathers were not thinking of hunting or fishing when creating the Second Amendment because if they didn't hunt or fish, they didn't live or eat. They knew what the Second Amendment was for and what protections it served.
That's right.
And that was to protect the people from governments that got out of control, that became tyrannical. And they didn't do it because they thought their government would become tyrannical. They did it because they saw their previous government become tyrannical, and they started a new one.
And, part of the Revolutionary War was fought over a gun ban. England wanted to take away the rights of a town, city in one of the colonies. I don't recall which off the top of my head here, but gun confiscation was one of the reasons, one of the factors for the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, and you said this last show, and somebody in chat just mentioned this. It's ironic that the same people that want to force gun control on the American people are the same ones advocating the murder of 3,000 innocent babies a day through the abortion, or what they call women's reproductive health services.
Yeah, that's very true. Of course, they don't look at unborn children as people. They look at them as, well, I don't know. Which I find the entire argument very hypocritical. I really do. But the Newtown, and folks, listeners, do you have problems, questions about the Newtown shooting, about the incident itself? I do.
We do. We played audio conflicting the official stories that were put out there. There was somebody in the woods apparently arrested. There was the police scanner of somebody being detained while running out of the building towards the police car.
There were 2 additional people that were reportedly cuffed and detained. Now, I understand securing the scene. I do understand that, so perhaps one or both could be explained. But the one, and again, during the conversation I had with Keith Hansen, the video of one of the parents, and folks, did you see this?
The hyperventilating, the smiling?
Yes. Now,
there was also a question of one of the victims, alleged victims, a little girl, wearing the same dress later on a photo 2 days after the massacre she supposedly died in. I don't know if you saw that picture. I don't know if that's accurate or not.
And I don't trust photographs on the internet because of the
Facebook page that Victoria Soto, that I have the screenshot of, created December 10th, R.I.P. Miss Soto. And it was created 4 days before the shooting happened.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of unanswered questions about this shooting, and I do know that, as you study and this is something that really is a mind bender. And as soon as you start talking about this stuff, Joe, and you and I have talked, you're called a kook. But boy, the lies are everywhere. And when you start talking about the Illuminati and about the satanic rituals, the Luciferian type of mindset that we're dealing with here, you're talking about a blood sacrifice of children. And could this be could Newtown be part of something like that? I mean, really, I don't know. I'm asking the question. And shouldn't this be looked into?
Well, of course it should be looked into.
Believe me, with all
it
with
just
the highest
seems
of respect of the parents as well, of the victims.
That every time one of these incidents happens, something else, once you start getting hot on the trail of the lie, another event pops up where, let's say something could go wrong in Damascus tomorrow, drawing all attention away from the previous shooting, followed by the next week, another mass shooting where, then they're like, okay, now this is it. Not only is there gun control, but you're going to bring your guns in, or we're going to come get you, kind of thing.
Well, I mean, there will be more.
You saw the shooting of the firefighters. You mentioned that.
Yes.
Just absolutely the evil that is being unleashed on this nation, the godlessness that is in every aspect of our society, whether it be TV, music, entertainment. I tell you what, I was listening to a top 40 radio station, Star 104 they call it here. And I talked with somebody about this before. Every love song, it seems like they sing on there. It seems like, if you listen to it, they're singing to Satan, not to another lover they had. And it's weird. I can't explain it. You guys, go out and listen to some of that music. Tell me if I'm wrong. It just, I just heard one, the bright shining star looked like a angel of light walking in the fire. I mean, this is just a regular love song on a top 40 Billboard channel. It just blew my mind away if I was thinking like that. And I'm like, are all the love songs, are they dedicating these to Lucifer? Is this, But even if they're not dedicating to Lucifer those love songs, there are enough songs out there that do openly dedicate it to Lucifer. The CIA whistleblowers have come out and said, don't watch TV. it is mind control. What do people do? You know, they go about their daily lives and want to think everything's good and normal. And I'm sure everybody had their holiday experiences trying to talk to people what was going on in the world. And I'm sure you had your fair share of arguments about people that wanted you to hand in your guns right now, or they were going to call the police on you during dinner.
You know what? That would be a good topic for callers. If you want to call in, if you had a conversation with a family member and attempted to talk with them about the current state of affairs, and were just treated like a wacko, or share your experiences with us in the audience. I'd like to hear that. That would be an interesting line of questioning, I think, or an interesting topic, because obviously, I mean, many people, I shouldn't say obviously, many people have sat down with their family and related some of the stuff that we talk about, I'm sure. And how was it received? Were they open? The family members open? Were they closed-minded?
I'll tell you what, I had a conversation with a listener and close friend of the show. Basically, yes, their family told them they were fringe for not believing in gun bans, pretty much.
Wow.
That they were a hypocritical Christian for the beliefs they held. This family, being Obama supporters.
Okay.
At the same time. And it wasn't a pleasant thing, from what I understand. And I'm sure a lot of people went through that.
And that's one thing that I'll talk about too. When I had the conversation with the DHS source, the real, perhaps what was not conveyed by the words in the article, the sentiment that had come out of this conversation was, there will be this ideological divide among family members. And I think I touched on this earlier this week and perhaps even last night about the betrayal factor. That watch, because you might have weapons and you might have food stockpiled. Now, when I say stockpile, put in your pantry or whatever. Just, normal. I'm not talking about you're living in a missile silo somewhere. I'm talking about your normal life. But what people will do is and I think that there's going to be, and this is again from my DHS source, that there's going to be this ideological divide, especially people who are, they're collecting maybe benefits from the federal government, their Social Security perhaps. They might be threatened with that and say, somebody might ask them from the government, well, do you know anybody who is stockpiling food? Well, what's that? Is that a few extra packages of spaghetti in the pantry?
The Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah, there you go. But I believe, just from my source, that we have to be careful of who we confide in when we talk. And I know that sounds paranoid, but I think that there's a level of sensibility there where you don't want to be telling people that you've got loads and loads of food. It's not because you're selfish. It's for self-preservation. It's to because your responsibility would be to feed you have the food or weapons or ammunition, whatever, to set aside as an insurance policy. In the event something goes wrong, and it will. I can promise you that.
Yeah, and I heard an interesting take on being prepared in the days of Noah, in the days of Lot,
right,
in the coming days. The lack of preparedness is spelled out in the Bible, in the Scriptures. The people were doing what? Carrying on like everything was okay, when they were supposed to be doing what? Getting prepared. Whether that means spiritually, physically. They could have taken measures to prepare themselves for what was coming.
And I wonder how. And
I'm not saying that's a sound doctrine to go out and stock rice and beans. I'm saying be prepared for what's coming, because we don't know how bad it's going to get. We don't know what can happen.
Well, I think we do know how bad it's going to get. I
really
do.
We know, but we don't know.
Exactly. And I've heard everything from, imagine Hurricane Sandy, multiply that by 10 or 100, or, and then spread that across the United States. Very dire, very, very dire stuff that makes you think, holy cow, do I even, do you even want to live to see another day if it's going to be that bad? But we all have to, and I believe this in my heart and my spirit, we have to stand up. And Joe, it's like our conversations. We have to stand up. We have to be leaders. We have to be examples. We have to be strong, even in our weakest moment. Even when you're the most depressed and down and thinking, my gosh, the weight of the world is on top of my head. But we have to be strong, because we've got other people that depend on us. It's not just us, but other people. Don't we have family? Don't we have children, perhaps, grandchildren? And if not for them, for whoever you might leave behind. And see, that's, to me, that this is the godly thing to do. It's like car insurance. When you mention about preparations, car insurance. Hey, even if you have insurance on your car and you don't get hurt, but the other person does in an accident, well, your insurance takes care of that person's medical bills. So kind of look at it that way too. If, for example, you don't benefit from your provisions that you set aside, perhaps someone else that needs them will. So I think it's sound doctrine, as you put it, Joe. That's very good. A couple of survival items. I just want to point this out. We didn't script this, by the way, but I've been asked this question. If you could think of, or a question about various items that we haven't talked about, aside from bullets, beans, and bullion. Bullets, beans, and bullion. Yeah, that's it. What would you recommend? Couple of things. Make sure you've got like a good LED type flashlight. There's also these like Leatherman wave tools, I think they're called. They're blades, saws, files, pliers. They're all-in-one tools. Crank radio, a two-way emergency crank radio, big item. You can buy one of those for $50. It's good for staying informed during emergencies and can be used for calling for help too. So look into that. And a couple of watches like a watch with a compass and the barometer and stuff on it. That's another thing. And there are many books out there, but just a couple of these items that I, when asked about, I just happened to write down. Also, you can't go wrong with pepper spray either. You might have a gun and all this other stuff, but pepper spray is good, especially for animals, too, that are threatening you. So don't forget your flashlights, radios, pepper spray, and stuff like that, watches, and even a crank-up radio. I just wanted to throw that in there because that was an email I got earlier, a couple of them, but I've been getting them, but I want to bring that up before I forgot.
I want to say this. There's some people in our interactive chat room, and for those who can listen live, on Blog Talk Radio, we do have an interactive chat room where you can come and take part in talking with a fellowship with other people. And a lot of people are saying that they are labeled as lunatic and fringe, and their families won't talk to them and won't listen to them and just call them completely lunatic. And I, typed in the chat room that they have their family here, but it is a sad reality when you have, basically, if we look at history, it would be like having Jewish friends in Germany and saying, you guys, this is going to happen. You need to get prepared and get ready and get out of here. And them laughing at you. And then, a year later, the stuff starts to happen. That would be very sad. You tried to do what you could do, but obviously, people won't listen. And it is heartbreaking when your own family rejects you just because of what you believe is not on par with what they believe. And what they believe is not based on anything other than what they're told.
Well, if I was from another planet and came down and watched television, or if I was just woke up from a tremendous nap, multi-decade nap, and started watching CNN or whatever, I would think that essentially everything is fine. I mean, not fine, but certainly not as dire as we're making it out to be. So I can understand that. But the normalcy bias that we often talk about, that's what you're experiencing. But don't let that get you down, because the very people who are saying, well, you're really kind of a lunatic, you're off, you're a little nutty there, Auntie Carol, you're just not right. Those are the very same people, when things do happen, that they'll come to you.
We've seen changes in our own family.
We have
drastic changes.
Yeah, and
it's amazing.
Little, and what? I'm glad you brought that, because little things. And folks, think of it this way: when you talk to people, and if you're patient, and if you're just level-headed, and you talk to your family members and you mention things, don't try to convince them in one setting. Don't try to really force the issue. This is my advice. But just plant the seed. Just plant the seed about, for example, the economy, and about, everyone wants to talk, or everyone's talking about the fiscal cliff and about where that's going. Well, you might want to mention during that conversation about the larger problem, about the debt that we have, and about the potential for the currency collapse. Just kind of plant the seed, and what will happen is, and do it in such a way where it's in context with the conversation, and you've got enough research to back up what you're saying, because you don't want to sound like a real, like I do sometimes. You want to have your facts straight, because what will happen is that seed will, given a little bit of time, even a day or two, that'll germinate there in their conscious or subconscious, and pretty soon they'll come back and ask you something. And that's how we've seen the changes happen. Yeah. So, but remember, you're fighting a normalcy bias that's really strong, because our brains are wired with a survival mechanism.
Yeah. And never forget, you're never alone.
That's right.
You have the Lord Jesus Christ to rely on, and you have His divine intervention that will hopefully open your family's eyes and your friends' eyes in time, so that they too can be saved. I want to talk about this 1 dead, 13 wounded in Christmas Eve Christmas shootings in Chicago. 1 person was killed, another 13 wounded in gun violence over this Christmas holiday, including an 11-year-old boy grazed by a bullet, and a man who was shot to death during a dispute in the Inglewood neighborhood. Remind you, this is a gun ban city. And interesting comments on here. Chicago gun control 2012, 523 killed, 2,639 shot.
Wait, how many killed? 520?
525 killed
so far this year?
Just this year. Now there is another comment on here. It's doctors versus gun owners. The number of physicians in the U.S., 700,000. Accidental deaths by physicians are 120,000 per year. Accidental deaths by physicians are 0.171%. Now, guns. There are 80 million guns in the USA, gun owners. Number of accidental gun deaths per year, all age groups, is 1,500. Percentage of accidental deaths per gun owners is 0.000188. Wow. Those are statistics, and I have a clip here from Mike Adams, the health ranger, backing that up. Why doctors are more dangerous than guns. And there's some music in this video, but this is in this audio. But there is this is different from the gun control is genocide documentary he made last week. This is from a few months ago. I'm going to play this now.
All right.
Gun control hinges on the idea that so-called gun violence is epidemic across America. As President Obama said about the 2012 Aurora, Colorado Batman movie theater shooting, quote,
every day the number of young people we lose to violence is about the same as the number of people we lost in that movie theater. For every Columbine or Virginia Tech, there are dozens gunned down on the streets of Chicago and Atlanta.
What he didn't say, however, is that every day 290 people are killed by FDA-approved prescription drugs. And that's the conservative number published by the Journal of the American Medical Association. The source of this information? JAMA, Volume 284, Number 4, July 26, 2000, authored by Dr. Barbara Starfield, MD, of the Johns Hopkins School of Hygiene and Public Health. That study, which is 12 years old, and drug deaths have risen considerably since then, documents 106,000 deaths per year from the adverse effects of FDA-approved prescription medications. To reach this number from outbreaks of violent shootings, you'd have to see an Aurora, Colorado Batman movie massacre take place every hour of every day, 365 days a year. If a massacre of people using slugs of lead is bad, why is a massacre of people using deadly chemicals perfectly acceptable? No one in Washington talks about prescription drug deaths. There are no sobbing victims shown on the evening news. This chemical massacre happens quietly, behind closed doors. Yet to achieve this level of mass death in the world of plane crashes, for example, you'd have to see a jumbo jet airliner crashing into the ground every day of the year. But that's only the beginning of the mass death caused by modern medicine, where greed-driven doctors are routinely bribed by the drug giants, and thereby make the Joker James Holmes look like a Boy Scout in comparison. As Natural News has revealed, just one company, GlaxoSmithKline, had a bribery network of 49,000 doctors who received financial kickbacks to prescribe more Glaxo pharmaceuticals to more patients. The company admitted to bribing doctors and paid a $3 billion settlement to the federal government in 2012. According to the report Death by Medicine by Drs. Gary Knoll, Carolyn Dean, Martin Feldman, Deborah Razio, and Dorothy Smith, the medical establishment kills 783,936 people in the United States every year. Those deaths include 106,000 Americans killed from drug side effects, 115,000 Americans killed from bed sores, 98,000 Americans killed from medical error, 88,000 Americans killed from infections, 32,000 Americans killed from surgery, 37,000 Americans killed by unnecessary medical procedures, and much more. See naturalnews.com for links to the original data. The bottom line total comes to 783,936 deaths every year from conventional medicine, that's drugs and surgery medicine. It means you are 6,200% more likely to be killed by your doctor than by a homicidal shooter. According to the CDC's numbers from 2007, the total number of homicide shooting deaths in the United States each year is about 12,600. This is from Death's final data for 2007 National Vital Statistics Report at the Centers for Disease Control. This means that your risk of being killed by your doctor is 62 times higher than the risk of being killed by a homicidal shooter. Put another way, that's a 6,200% higher risk. It seems that before we even think about the issue of gun control, we need a national debate on doctor control. After all, when doctors inadvertently kill people by prescribing deadly chemotherapy cocktails or deadly prescription drugs, they don't even get arrested for it. But they do get financial kickbacks, exotic vacations paid by the drug companies, free travel, free meals, and other perks of being a big pharma sellout. Plus, they're free to go on killing other people over and over again. While doctors obviously don't intend to kill people, they nonetheless keep doing so, as long as they get their bribes, kickbacks, and perks. If politicians really wanted to protect Americans from being killed, they'd call for restrictions on the prescribing of deadly pharmaceuticals. More important than gun control, what we really need now is doctor control or big pharma control. Learn more at naturalnews.com. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, the editor of naturalnews.com, and the executive director of the nonprofit Consumer.
Wow. That
All
was
right.
a little bit of
Sorry about the ending there.
stereo.
I was grabbing the URL of the video. But no, there you have some facts, some statistics that show you how the medical industry, and this is reports from earlier numbers, and I know the number of gun violence or gun deaths has went down at least 1,000 since 2007. As that Piers Morgan interview, they talked about, I think, under 11,000 or around 11,000 people died last year from gun violence in America. But the number of deaths by medical malpractice, pharmaceutical complications has risen.
Yeah, it has.
And that's just one example. I mean, we could, go on. We could use how many more times are you likely to die in a car accident? How many more? I think, what is it? You're 5 or 8 times more likely to be killed by a police officer than in a mass shooting or something.
Well, I think perhaps one of the more important statistics, if we look at modern history, we look at the gun ban that went into effect in Australia, for example. And after that went into effect, the armed robberies rose by 69%. Assaults with guns rose by 28%. Gun murders rose by 19%, and home invasions by 21%.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now, so you've got, obviously we've got multiple issues here with respect to, or multiple examples. You've got the doctors. You've got the pharmaceuticals that are responsible for more deaths than guns. Then you've got on the other side the fact that gun bans do not work. And as we said, as you laid out, Joe, earlier programs, the registration followed by the confiscation of weapons, it leads to genocide. It leads to tyrannical takeover, and I think what we should do for the sake of this program, like I think we've established that Google is not a verb; it's not to be used as a verb. In other words, we don't Google anything; we search it. We use it as we search a term. I think that instead of calling semi-automatic weapons assault weapons, I think what we ought to do, or the assault weapon ban, I think it'd be more appropriate to call this a tyrannical resistance weapons ban. I know it's a little bit more cumbersome. It doesn't roll off the tongue like assault weapon ban does, but it's not an assault weapons ban. It's a tyrannical resistance weapons ban. That's what it essentially is. So so I think that we ought to make that a fixture, just like Steve Quayle has Quaylisms. We'll make that a Hagmann report motto, or that our own language, I suppose. So they're not assault weapons; they're tyrannical resistance weapons.
All right, we got some disturbing news here out of RT. U.S. deploying troops to 35 African countries.
Yes.
The United States Army will be deploying nearly 3 dozen troops to nearly 3 dozen African nations in the coming year. Soldiers based out of Fort Riley, Kansas, 2nd Brigade, 1st Infantry Division, will begin training in March 2013 in order to prepare for the project that will send troops to as many as 35 African nations, as the Associated Press reports. I'll post a link in the chat room here now.
And part of the Libya, of course, being in North Africa, part of that, there's also the problem in Mali and Africa, and so we are overtaking, or I shouldn't say overtaking, we're heavily involved in conflicts in
yeah. I mean, listen to
covert affairs in Africa.
Citing growing threats from extremist groups, including those with ties to Al-Qaeda, the Defense Department is hoping to install American soldiers overseas in order to prepare local troops there for any future crises as tensions escalate.
Oh, you really can't make this stuff up.
I want to throw this computer monitor through.
It's frustrating because
they're going to go fight Al-Qaeda. I mean, are they going to go fight for the Al-Qaeda troops? Are they going to go give them the countries, or are they going to?
It's perpetual, isn't it?
I'm so confused.
Well, no.
See, I'm so confused.
It really, who does? And I guess we have to ask, who does this benefit? Really, who benefits by this? Obviously, the military subcontractors, just like we've talked about before. You had the incident with Abu Matalib in the airport, and all of a sudden the naked body scanners came in. It was a problem solution, or problem reaction solution, that the Hegelian dialectic is what we're seeing. We're creating the problem by funding the Al-Qaeda related organizations, and then we're spending money and enriching the military industrial complex. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but I am. To fight the problem that we ourselves created. And I was talking with a good friend of mine today as well, who said it's difficult to get your mind around what's going on, because everything from beginning to end, it's like we're swimming in a sea of lies. Everything that we're being told is nothing but lies, and the truth is a rarity right now. But as is this African initiative, and I know Alex Jones talks about AFRICOM and how we are too, and I believe it's Webster Tarpley or one of his guests talks about that quite in depth. And by the way, I believe I'm scheduled to be on Alex Jones with Alex Jones on InfoWars, the nightly news. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's going to be tomorrow or Friday. We're still working out the scheduling on that, so just want to throw that in there as well.
Well, that's good. When you get the
we'll get the confirmation on it. We'll
confirmation of the date and time. You let us know, and we will promote the heck out of it.
And I got to tell you, I mean, Alex is doing a lot. Alex Jones is doing a lot. InfoWars, Prison Planet, they're doing a lot to educate people.
And I got an article here from him right now I wanted to read.
Go ahead. Yeah,
ex-TSA screener. Officers laughing at your naked body images.
Yeah, I know they would be mine. I'll tell you that.
Whistleblower launches blog to expose federal agencies' ridiculous policies. A former TSA screener turned blogger who is now causing embarrassment for the federal agency has revealed that TSA officers routinely laugh and make fun of passengers' nude body scanner images in back rooms. In a blog entitled "Taking Sense Away," the anonymous ex-TSA worker reveals how he witnessed light sexual play among officers, a lot of e-cigarette vamping, and a whole lot of officers laughing and clowning in regards to some of your nude images of the dear passengers. The revelation was in response to readers who asked, "Tell us, please, what really happens in the private room while the TSA does not want it seen in the public nor recorded." The ex-TSA screener also ridiculed the existence of the I.O. rooms, the image operator rooms, where naked images produced by body scanners are viewed by TSA agents. He says, the most ridiculous thing that the I.O. rooms even exist to begin with. The backscanner machines are useless, As I and many others have previously pointed out, they should never have been put into use to begin with.
Right.
TSA officers should never have been viewing nude radiation-rendered images of passengers in those private rooms, period.
But see, ladies and gentlemen, how much are we going to allow? How much are we going to put up with? Why are we even allowing ourselves to go through this? This is what I don't understand. I don't understand why we, in traveling for even the holidays, why we are allowing. How much will Americans allow? How much indignity? How much?
Just as much as the Jewish people in Germany. This is what history is repeating itself. We keep saying it. It is happening right in front of our eyes.
Well, and it wasn't just the Jews in Germany, by the way.
No, it was the Ottoman Empire. It was the Russian or the communists in USSR. It was the communists in Pol Pot in China,
right,
under Mao and under Pol Pot and under. I got a whole list here.
I know, but
Guatemala.
But see, we have a constitution and we have rights.
No, we had a constitution.
Yeah.
Now we have a international global banking cabal that is hell-bent on making sure every single right in that constitution is obliterated as they set up their tyrannical one-world government so they can control every aspect of your life and my life, whether it be political, financial, or medical, and they're doing it and putting it together right now. The mark of the beast system, it's being implemented, a one-world government's coming, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. The only hope we have is the salvation in Jesus Christ. Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this day after Christmas, this Wednesday, December 26, 2012. We'll be right back after these short messages. Stay with us.
Hi, folks. Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the Internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Aileta Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile-friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP Brick Packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth squads specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies at work right there in your neighborhood. KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
Hold on to your seat. The Hagmann and Hagmann flight is now taking off. Doug and Joe Hagmann have cleared the runway of TSA agents, jihadists, political crackpots, and global elitists. Now get ready for some real news. Here they are, Doug and Joe Hagmann.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this December 26, 2012. It is a Wednesday, and I do have some important audio to bring to you. Right now, I'd like to play this. This is hot off of YouTube. The truth behind the 2013 NDAA Part 1, the Feinstein-Lee Amendment. Listen close, guys. This is very important.
The 2013 version of the NDAA is now headed to President Barack Obama's desk. If you have followed the National Defense Authorization Act and the undoing of constitutional rights to trial that the NDAA is responsible for, then you've probably heard of something called the Feinstein-Lee Amendment. It's an amendment that was supposed to prohibit indefinite detention for U.S. citizens. The big question, does it do that? This is Full Disclosure. Weeks ago, as part of the effort to combat indefinite detention, an amendment was offered by Senators Dianne Feinstein and Mike Lee, the Feinstein-Lee Amendment. It was backed by Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, one of the strongest opponents to indefinite detention. Senator Paul issued this statement about why he supported the Feinstein-Lee Amendment, saying, quote, "The bill this year contained the amendment I supported, which sharply limited the detention power and eliminated it entirely for American citizens in the U.S. While it's only a partial victory, it was a big victory, particularly compared to what passed last year. Even so, I will continue to fight to protect anyone who could possibly be indefinitely detained." So the big question, does the Feinstein-Lee Amendment do what Senator Paul claims that it does? Let's start by taking a look at the amendment. It's called Section 1033, Prohibition on the Indefinite Detention of Citizens and Lawful Permanent Residents. It goes on to say Section 4001 of Title 18, United States Code, is amended. An authorization to use military force, a declaration of war, or any similar authority shall not authorize the detention without charge or trial of a citizen or lawful permanent resident of the United States, apprehended in the United States, unless an act of Congress expressly authorizes such detention. That sounds good, right? Well, that's exactly the problem with the Feinstein-Lee Amendment. All it does is sound good. Let's take a look at this one step at a time, beginning with the title of that section. Section 1033, Prohibition on the Indefinite Detention of Citizens and Lawful Permanent Residents. Just because the section is titled Prohibition does not make it prohibition. According to Jeff Lewis with the Intolerable Acts Action Center's legal team, the U.S. Supreme Court has already ruled on this issue, that a section title is not law, which means prohibition in the title means nothing. So if this is prohibition, then prohibition can't just be in the title. It must be in the substantive text of this amendment. Is it there? Well, no, it really isn't. Take a look again. An authorization to use military force, a declaration of war, or any similar authority shall not authorize the detention without charge or trial of a citizen or lawful permanent resident of the United States, apprehended in the United States, unless an act of Congress expressly authorizes such detention. Clearly, nothing in that clause states that the President or the executive branch are actually prohibited from indefinite detention. In fact, it merely says that Congress has not authorized detention without charge or without trial, unless they choose to authorize that kind of detention. But see, here's the problem, because Congress doesn't have to authorize anything, because the last two presidents, Bush and President Obama, have already exercised the indefinite detention authority. And that's a major problem because the executive branch isn't asking for authorization. They don't believe that they need it. So what you need to know here is that the Feinstein-Lee Amendment isn't even in the 2013 version of the NDAA, because when the Senate and the House bills were reconciled, that amendment was left out. Now you might be saying, well then why are we even talking about this? It's not even important. Well, actually it is important for two major reasons. Number one, many senators voted for this amendment, including Senator Paul, claiming that this was a step in the right direction, when in fact the Feinstein-Lee Amendment was a step to nowhere. The fact is, this amendment did nothing to actually protect U.S. citizens from indefinite detention. But secondly, Americans need to be aware that the president or the executive branch doesn't believe that Congress needs to authorize any of its behavior. If Congress is serious about actually stepping up and combating the executive branch over this issue, prohibiting indefinite detention, and protecting the constitutional right to a trial, well then quite frankly, Congress needs to create an amendment in the NDAA that would actually, specifically, and substantively prohibit the executive branch from being able to use the power of indefinite detention. Until Congress does that, no amendment will be effective at all. And that is full disclosure.
And that is exactly why we need to pay attention to what's going on. In other words, that's meaningless.
Yeah, and some people in the chat are saying that it's already been voted on, or it makes no difference regardless. Yeah, it makes no difference regardless. But that was just breaking down the really the fake politics that are inside politics, the fake political maneuvering to please constituents or to pretend like they were doing something to be proactive on an issue that their constituency is, asking them about.
That's the importance of that explanation. That's not the fact that it's a done deal. It's how both sides are working, or more, I guess more to the point, how the legislative branch is working with the executive branch to give the executive branch the power of indefinite detention over American citizens, thus negating the Bill of Rights. Bottom line, and it's to show that everything that we're talking about here is a magic show. It's an illusion. It's a lie. See, we come back to that. We're being lied to, and these people that we have elected are laughing at us.
And it's a continuous lie, and it's a continuous laugh. And these people want our deaths. They want to rid this nation, this world, of the useless eaters. They want to set up their one world government for their king, Lucifer, that they refer to as God, only not the same God that we refer to as. And somebody in the chat room said it best. Let me find it here. We must repent and pray to God now. And we must continue to do it now. Yeah. And if we don't, our eternal souls are in eternal danger.
Well, and that's why on Christmas I wrote that article about Christmas, the link between Christmas and 9/11, and I got a lot of good feedback from that article where Gary Bell from Toronto had really spent 3.5 hours on Saturday mapping out the historical, astrological, and other factors that really makes a good case for the birth of Jesus on 9/11, on September 11th by our Gregorian or Julian calendar. So in other words, 9/11 or September 11th in the year 3 BC by our current calendar is his real birth date. And the reason that's important, and the reason I think it's important anyway, is from little, think about this. From childhood, we are being lied to, and one might think, well, what is the problem with that? if we don't, and I remember even defending my position, saying, taking an opposite position than what I'm taking right now, not too long ago, was saying, well, it's okay if the birth of Jesus was actually in September or whatever. Doesn't really matter. We celebrate it on the 25th. But the important part of this, just like the amendment language, is not only, it's a lie, and it's a lie from childhood, but whose birthday are we celebrating on December 25th, and why? Well, when you look even deeper into this, you find out that it's a paganistic, ritualistic celebration of the sun god, or the Antichrist, if you will. And we're forced into this, and when I say forced into it, we're led into this lie, thinking it's a harmless lie when it's not. So, compare the language being used about the NDAA, and look how tricky and how cumbersome that is. And then the evil simplicity of the lie with respect to the Christmas holiday and what we're celebrating. There's depths. The lie. I was told the lie is different at every level, and is that ever true?
Think of this now. All this knowledge, newfound knowledge coming out, things being, saying the Lord was born on 9/11, true or not. We know he wasn't born on Christmas, but we have this new information coming out, where you're saying that it's possible that was the day he was born, corrupting,
right,
good and evil and evil and good. All this stuff is coming out into full view for every person to see it, man, woman, and child, in all parts of the world, whether it be through natural disasters, mass murders through governments, starvations, whatever it is, the abortion, the violence culture, the consumption of America, they see all this happening. At the same time, Israel's been a nation now for how long? 64 years?
Just celebrated yes. 60.
And the generation that sees Israel become a nation again will be the generation that sees the end days coming. Now, you can take a generation to be, 70 years, 100 years?
100, right.
It's God's time. We don't know.
Right.
But what we do know is we are witnessing the last days. Whether the last days is the next 100 years, whether it's the next 50, whether it's the next 10, 7, or 3.5. We don't know.
Correct.
But it is the last time. It is the last days. That is what the prophecies say. They are being fulfilled before our eyes. And there is nothing more important than where our soul ends up. So now,
exactly,
we have decisions to make in our daily life. If we are not living properly, we have to change our behaviors.
Yes.
If we don't change our behaviors, we are going to be left in a place we never imagined. We would never. It says we would be better off never to have been born. If we have behaviors that are on the level and we think we're doing really good at, well, we got to try to better those, because we can never be, perfect. It's really impossible, but we need to be righteous. And there is, people say, oh, what's the difference between being righteous and perfect? Well, those who are righteous know that difference. And that's something that
being righteous and perfect, there's a huge difference.
Right.
The last perfect person was crucified.
Correct. And what I am trying to convey here is that there has never been a more important time to get your own spiritual house in order.
Right.
Regardless of your family around you, your friends around you. If they don't want to join in, if they don't want to support you, if they don't want to believe you, that's fine. But like Noah, build your ark, your spiritual ark.
And your practical preparations as well. Because I'm a believer in both. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. Both of us, or all of us can. So let's do both, with emphasis on, of course, the spiritual salvation, because eternity is a long time, and But realize that we're operating behind enemy lines already, because I think that's very important for people to understand. When we talk about for example, the DHS insider interview, and we're operating behind enemy lines. We are in an occupied country, that being the United States of America right now. We are actually being labeled as resistors, or as the resistance, or as
fringe.
Well, the fringe, of course,
and
fringe.
Yes, through the Department of Homeland Security, they have taken the Patriot Act, turned it inward against the American people,
right?
Just like many said they would do, and now there is a category that each and every one of us fit into very nicely, whether it is being a constitutionalist, whether it is liking the ownership of guns, whether it is like reading your Bible, whether it is not liking abortion. You are labeled as a terrorist, as a threat, not just a terrorist, a threat. And there's an important distinction there, because as a threat, you are the opposition. And what do they want to do to the opposition? They want to get rid of you. And we know that, being Bible-believing Christians, that not only does the fact that we are people who like our liberties, freedoms, rights, our guns, our freedom of speech, our private property, we are the worst offenders. We are the Christians.
Right.
Those are the people who will be attacked the worst, the most, and have the most to lose. Not the most to lose eternally, but the most to lose here in the earthly realm.
And part of this, too, we had played the clip from Ben Swan about the Feinstein-Lee amendment to the NDAA. And you think, well, geez, now this is a good thing. At least maybe Feinstein was trying to actually do something good on behalf of the American citizen. Well, what else is... Let's take a couple of steps back and look at what else she's doing. Well, Feinstein was one in particular who is... suggesting this national buyback of weapons. Now, you're going to be hearing a lot about this, but here's, just as the language was cumbersome and twisted with the NDAA bill, notice that Feinstein came out and said that she's considering, when Congress reconvenes, to immediately put out this legislation where they buy back, the government would buy back weapons, assault weapons. Well, number one, the language is improper, because buyback, there is no buyback. I mean, excuse me, they didn't sell the weapons to the people.
That's true.
Okay, so so think about how the English language is being used. The second thing is, while she discounts any type of what she says, basically things would be grandfathered. In other words, if you own an assault rifle or a weapon that they deem to be an assault weapon, not just a rifle, but even a pistol, a semi-automatic pistol.
No, that is an assault rifle.
Assault weapon. Let's be very clear on that.
Okay.
Okay, but here's the problem now. You've got language being inserted into that, consistent with Governor Cuomo from New York, saying, well, not only could there be a forced buyback, again, with a problem with that word buyback, but a confiscation. A mandatory sale to the state is an option. Permitting or registration would be an option. In other words, you'd have to pay. You'd have to buy a permit from the federal government to keep your weapon. But then there's also the discussion about confiscation, and also criminalization of possession of a semi-automatic weapon. So, if you think about this, if you think about what's taking place, Australia, they implemented a mandatory buyback program in 1996 following one mass shooting. That law banned semi-automatic and automatic rifles and shotguns even, and put in place a mandatory purchase program for newly banned weapons. That led to the destruction of 650,000 guns at that time. But now Feinstein and her people want that very same policy to be initiated in this country. Where's that going to take us? We are going to be left defenseless against the tyranny of our government. And even if let's just say they go on a light version of what they're talking about, well, you can keep it, but you have to have it registered. And not only you have to have it registered, we are going to tax you, or you're going to have a permit for it, which is going to be like $200 or we'll say $500 per weapon. What will that do? And when I was talking to Keith Hansen today, earlier, from the Keith Hansen show out of Naples, Florida, he mentioned, think about what this would do and could do to the companies like his, where he goes out and teaches defensive handgun classes. That'd put him out of business.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, boy, a lot of things could happen in a short period of time. And I hear all of these funny and I read these funny comments. Well, gee, California doesn't have enough money. No, governments don't have money. That's our money.
They print the money.
Well, they print the money, but it's our money.
Correct.
It's the arguments are being made on the wrong levels. Of course.
It is part of the propaganda. It is part of the deception. It is part of the brainwashing that we are seeing affecting so many American people. And folks, we're going to open the phone lines. We want to hear from you.
Earlier in the program, we were talking about
you guys that sat around your loved ones this holiday. We want to hear some of the stories, good stories and bad stories. Anything you'd like to share about how the holidays went. If you discussed politics, what was happening with our country, what was happening with our Christian nation, our church, any of the subjects we talk about on a daily basis. If you had problems, if you had agreements, or if you guys left it alone, give us a call, 661-244-9839.
And I want to thank Wally for sending, during the program, sending two pictures of that little girl. Joe, you mentioned about these potential stage elements of the shooting in Newtown.
Did you get that picture?
Wally, thank you very much.
Somebody
Wally,
said it could be photoshopped when I saw it initially, but I didn't look into it that much, so I don't know. I just saw it there.
I don't know either. Of course, just having received it during the show, we'll take a look at this as well. What we are doing here for the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for listeners is we're compiling all of the information. We are vetting the information, ensuring its accuracy.
You have that Soto pic of the Facebook screen cap, because I have that too.
Yeah, we've got a virtual folder, and then we've got a hard copy folder of the various things, and we'll be presenting our findings as we verify and authenticate the evidence that we get.
Not only that, we should go back through the Aurora shooter, and there are similarities there, as both fathers were scheduled to testify in the LIBOR scandal. They were subpoenaed to testify in the LIBOR scandal. Too many coincidences, much political gain for these snake oil salesmen we call political officials in Washington. We heard Nancy Pelosi says, I hope this massacre of children, really gives us the political motivation to be able to ban guns. You heard Dianne Feinstein say it. You hear them all say it. I hope it gives us the political capital. That's what they care about human life. Political capital. We're going to go to the phone lines. We're going to go to area code 916. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. What is on your mind tonight?
Hi, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I've been listening to Being Prepared, and I heard it again last night, and I am prepared because, not just physically, but spiritually, because of, what's going to happen in our world, which it's already happening with the cash and our worthless dollar. So, I'm very prepared spiritually, water, food, everything. and plus I live in Los Angeles, so, I'm prepared as much as I can be for earthquakes and weather, whatever it may be. I think everybody should be prepared, because I don't think I can depend on anybody if anything happens. So, but what I don't hear being addressed by different hosts and videos is they'll tell you to bring in the water, bring in the food, do everything you can. But what happens when you don't have a place to bring it into? I mean, not every, I'm thinking if I lose my job, which is a good chance because I'm in the medical field, and, if people are losing their jobs with the economy, they're not going to buy into our stuff, and so they're going to cut back where I'm at, and then I'm going to get thrown out of my apartment. And, people that own homes, that's nice. I mean, they still have a mortgage, and if they can't pay it, they're out. And if they are debt-free, then they'll lose it with property tax. I have car payments, so if I can't pay my car, then I can't put my food and water in the car and live in the car. What do we do? I mean, I'm not going to lose sleep over it, but it is a concern. Get prepared. How about if you don't even have a place to stay or live? Am I going to end up in a FEMA camp and they'll take all my food and water? I mean, what do you do as far as, let's take it a step back, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Not everybody is going to be having a home or a roof over their heads.
No,
or
that's
family
right.
to go to.
That's right.
So, I mean, and I'm spiritually prepared, of course. I love my Lord, and I got my Bible packed. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. But in the meantime,
I'll tell you.
I have a job. But I don't know for how long because, like I said, if nobody's buying health insurance because they got to feed their families first, well, there's going to be cutbacks where I work. And then if I don't have a job, you think my apartment's going to let me live here?
Of course not. No.
I don't know. What do we do?
You're in the same situation as my father. You're in the same situation as me. I'm a renter right now. He has a mortgage. Both of us could be swept away or have our places of residence taken away from us at an instant. And when that time comes, I only pray that the Lord will yell out to us and say, Joe, Doug, this is what you are supposed to do. Well, go do it.
Yeah, but I think a couple of practical ideas, and this is something even when I sat down to look. Well, go ahead.
I just want to say this. Neo Polaris in the chat room writes this, and this is true, but I want to make a point. Worrying about the future is fear. There is a point where worrying about the future can become counterproductive and is an element of fear. But we must consider the future and the planning of that to make sure we can do the best we can when times arise, when these things happen.
Yeah,
and we're not trying to promote fear.
No, and we're not. But you raise an excellent point because even when I sat down to think, well, boy, you sit down and you try to cover all the contingencies in a very practical, methodical manner. Just and have an intelligent conversation with yourself in a way, and say, well, what would happen in this case or that case or whatever. And I know, for example, look, even if I have a pantry, while I still have a house, the practical matter of storing water, for example, that takes up a lot of room, especially if you're storing. Holy cow!
We're in a little apartment.
Yeah, exactly.
And now that it's illegal to collect rainwater, it's kind of hard to do on the fly.
Yeah, but so. Like, for example, the water situation. What I found, and I did some research on this, what I found is, generally speaking, most people are well within an area where there's water accessible. It just might be drinkable. There are products out there that are very light, very small, that will convert the water that you can collect either by dipping it into like a stream or something, and filter the water. And for example, Sweetwater has got a product out there that can be used. And to store it, it's like the size of a thermos. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is, in your case, where you don't have a lot of room, you can actually create like a duffel bag full of possibilities. For example, that could take care of your water supply concerns. That might not be all of them, but that's part of it. Then you can the MREs. You don't have to buy freeze-dried food, big quantities of have them, and you can buy MREs and put them in your bag. Even if you've got enough in a duffel bag of food, water, and extra clothing, or a couple of duffel bags, where even if you found yourself without shelter for a period of time, you can actually carry them with you. It wouldn't be a burden. That's practical and that's sensible. But now I have to say this: as long as you, and even in an apartment setting, you can still do this. So there are ways. I would search the internet, because I did this. When you have space concerns, there might be a time when you might have to move. And folks, do not underestimate. People listening to this, when you're preparing, do not underestimate if you're bringing in canned food. Let me tell you something. To store canned food, it's heavy. You think you're going to make a bug out bag with Campbell's soup? Right. It's heavy, and so yeah. These are concerns, ma'am. And I'll tell you something. You raised an excellent point that few people talk about, and we should be talking about this. What about people that are going to be without shelter, or possibly?
This is really something I pray that people put their spiritual lights on and seek the Father and His wisdom.
Well, yes, because I do as well.
We can prepare on this earth until we have all the resources we need, more than the government combined. But what good does that do us when the Lord is destroying the earth, and setting up His new kingdom?
But on the practical sense, though, I think that I would not lose a lot of sleep. And again, as Joe said, put your faith in God. But from a practical earthly sense, I would say that work with the size. First of all, don't try to anticipate everything possible that could happen out there. I mean, if you attempt to prepare for every eventuality or possibility, you're just going to drive yourself insane. It's not going to work. But definitely have something like a bag that has key things for your survival. Again, something to purify water. Instead of carrying water, something to purify it. Instead of freeze-dried food in cans, number 10 cans, you've got MREs. Instead of you have clothes. Instead of having axes and chainsaws, you might have a single single tool that does multiple purposes. For room issues. Same with the radio, multi-purpose radios. They have those. So something that you could fill up a back seat of a car with, that still could save you. And if you lose a car, or if you don't have a car, then something in a bag. But like I said, now, do you have family? I'm just curious. Do you have family that you might be able to?
I do, but I think of them too, because I only see this world getting worse. I see more and more people losing their jobs. I don't know if there's going to be unemployment out there or Social Security, which they say we don't really. I mean, they're taking everything, and I am prepared, food and water, lights, everything. I'm prepared, but I'm going to, like I said, take it a step further. If I do lose my job, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that's going to, what are we going to do for a roof over our heads, a car to put our stuff in? I do have family, but if this world, which I believe it will, get worse, and, they're on fixed incomes, I don't know if Social Security is going to continue to send them checks or their retirement money. I'm not looking for a problem. I just don't want to perish from a lack of knowledge.
Oh, I love it.
And that seems like the last thing you're going to... right.
Yes, yes.
You seem to be very concerned about, different things, outcomes that could happen with... as many people are, with what's going to happen to us and our physical bodies on Earth. But really, what it comes down to, I just typed in the chat room, all that matters from the time we're born to the time we die. Every single one of us dies. It's just a matter of when and how. All that matters is what did we do for Jesus during our time here.
Right, but and Joe, I love you for doing that. But once again, let me go back and let me address her practical concerns. I've looked through a lot of prepper sites, and people who live in one-bedroom apartments have written in numerous forums, and they say, "Well, what do I do?" It's you can't live in a one-bedroom apartment, with months of food. Talk about a series episode of Hoarders, for crying out loud. Being prepared is important, but you can't live in a one-bedroom apartment surrounded by stored survival products. So if you don't know, for example, we don't know if we need to survive for a day, 7 days, 20 days, a month, whatever it is. You don't know if it's going to be a hurricane, a storm, natural disaster. You don't know what it's going to be. You live in Los Angeles, an earthquake, for crying out loud.
Holidays,
so forget about surviving. Let's say if you have a one-bedroom apartment, just forget about surviving for a month, having survival preps for a month or a year. Think about surviving for just 1 week, which is fairly reasonable. It doesn't require that much food storage. In fact, you can get a bucket of food, for example, from I think Walmart and some other places sell them. And like I said, the basic hygiene, hydration issues, reconstituting your emergency or water and such, water filler. These are practical things. Having a bag with you to fill it up. Making sure. Now you live in Los Angeles, so really warm clothing. You're not going to need a parka with gloves.
No, never. And it doesn't rain much here either, so rainwater is kind of hard.
That's true, but again, you will be close to areas where there will be water. So, from a practical standpoint, again, have just the basics within your apartment. Figure on like a 3-day supply or a week's supply at most, or if you can, of food and water, especially because of the earthquake aspect. But if beyond that. You want to think about having maybe nearby family, friends, relatives, whatever that you can go to in that event, and bring with you something that you've already have compiled. Okay, that way you're not a burden on them.
I'm prepared. I am prepared, and I am prepared for a year. And like I said, I don't lose sleep over it. I don't lose sleep over it because, I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I have no clue. But, I am prepared like I think I should be, and I'm not worried. I just like to know what would we do, just because I'm thinking ahead, that, if a lot of us lose our apartments and our homes, and the church really gets persecuted, and here we've got our food and our water. Are we going to go underground? What are we going to do? Are we going to end up getting all of our water and food taken away from us? Are we going to FEMA camps? I don't know. I'm not, like I said, it sounds silly, but I'm sorry. Anything's possible to me the way the world's going.
I agree, and judging by about...
I believe we're in captivity. We're in captivity now, but we don't know it, but we are.
No, I agree, and judging by the...
Worse than you want to, than a lot of people think. Because my head is not going to be buried in the sand like an ostrich. I'm going to keep myself very much up to date with what's going on. And I did it with programs like yours.
Well, I've got to tell you, we appreciate the. I'm glad you have. Look, the only thing I can say in this case, because of the level of preps that you have, you sound to me like you are absolutely intelligent enough to know what to do, or when to do it, when the time comes. I have a feeling that you're much more intelligent than the average bear, and I suspect that you will be quite resilient. Even worst case scenario, you lose your apartment where you live. I have a feeling you'll find a way. If you're prepared in this fashion at this point, you'll find a way. I really believe that. And keep listening.
I'm going to definitely listen for the Lord, and that He, that He speaks to me as to what He would want me to do, of course, because He's number one. Because you can prepare all you want, but if you're not right with God, forget it. I mean, this is for nothing. So I'm right, and I know where I'm going. I know if my eyes were to close today, they'll wake up in heaven. I already know that. But like I said, I still think He wants us to be smart enough and be prepared and not worry or have fear, but just what's wrong with knowledge?
Nothing.
And that's all. And
yeah. Don't be scared. Be prepared. That's all. That's the good motto.
That's what But I just never hear anybody talking of, bring your food home, bring your water home, and I'm thinking, how do you know there's going to be a home? Because, I'm thankful every day that there's a roof over my head. But tomorrow it could be totally different. We don't know what's going to come, but it won't be just me, I'm sure, that's going to be in that situation. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if we're all going to be out. I don't know, but I'm not going to worry about it because I really feel that I don't know exactly the scripture, but has God's people ever begged for bread? I don't know exactly where it is, but He'll feed us. I know He'll take care of us no matter what. Somehow, some way, I'm going to have enough.
Well, thank you so much for your call tonight, and if we rely on Him, He will take care of us.
Yes.
And you brought some great points, and I want to thank you for on behalf of people who have those concerns. I want to thank you for bringing up those points.
Yeah.
We're going to move on. Thank you so much, ma'am. God bless you.
Thank you for listening and hearing me out and giving me some good insights.
Well, it's our pleasure, and you can have some of our snow.
Thanks for the call.
Yes.
We have an international caller on the line.
Let's take.
We're going to go there, and then we're going to go to. I think this is Constance, and then we're going to go to 304 after this. Constance, is this you? Are you live on the Hagmann and Hagmann report?
Well, good evening, Doug and Joe. I wish you a happy holiday. I hope you enjoyed it with your families.
We did.
I just want to say tonight that it is good to hear from you. I've been listening, and I am enjoying always your program. And thank you very much, especially when you have such important people and they are speaking. It is very, very enlightening.
Well,
but tonight,
thank you.
Yes, I want to say last week I was with some old clients of mine. We have done business over the years. We were in a restaurant and we were speaking. And as I don't myself have a television, they was telling me how they had been watching a program talking about how Americans are stopping food and water, and everyone busted out laughing and said, "Those crazy Americans! I wonder why they are doing that." And I tried to explain to them that the situation is very, very desperate in America, and things are getting very bad because I don't think the majority of people realize what is happening in America. They don't even realize what is happening here in Europe. But when you try to explain to them and talk to them, for the first time, people think they are used to me because they are saying things that I am off the wall. It's like I have a 15-year-old son, and his name is Isaac, and he said to me, "Mother, if it wasn't anybody but you, I would say they're crazy." Because I'm always talking to them about what is happening. Because, it is very, very concerning what is happening in America, because also at the same time here in Europe, many things are happening here. I don't know if you know, but in Greece, now if you are unemployed, if you don't have a job, you do not have a right to have medical assistance. You must pay cash. And
wow.
It goes also for pharmacies. You must go to the pharmacy. You must have cash on hand. They are no longer, and I said that there are so much unemployment in Greece and Spain. But in Greece, the hospitals, the doctors, they don't take anymore the people that are not able to have an insurance. They don't accept them anymore. You must pay cash. And that is the first stage, and I can imagine that it will be eventually coming here also, because as unemployment is very slowly, unemployment also here in France is growing. I noticed here, my clients, they are slowly dwindling away. And me and my husband, we were having serious conversations that we are going to cut back this year. This year we are feeling very, very much we are going to be getting new taxes. I'm sure you heard that everybody is running away from France. Who has money?
Yes.
But the problem is, yes.
Oh, Constance, I just wanted to ask a question. Can you hear us?
Can you?
Yes,
Constance,
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
A question from the person in chat wanted to know, what is your occupation? What do you?
We have import-export couturier. Couture, we are fashion designer. We are designing and producing clothing.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Plus, Constance, you have a magazine, do you not? Is that part of your occupation as well?
Well, that's a little bit on the side, and that takes a lot of time. We are trying to get that, and it's very problematic. And you have because you have to research, you have to read, and you are hours and hours on the computer, and also getting the people to read it. And I wrote it in English. And I have to translate it because here, so many people can read the English. And it is very important that many people can read that, and that takes also some time too. So it's taking time, but it's something that we want to do. And also we are thinking about our future, because presently we are paying many, many taxes here ourselves. We are paying all types of taxes here in France. We have very high taxes. I think we are the highest taxed European country here in Europe. And this year we feel the inflation. The prices are going up. We have 5 children, and when we have 2 going into university, and we have decided that anything that we cannot pay for, we will not do, and that means if the university cannot be paid for by us, that without a loan, without that, we will not do it. We are cutting down. We are really, really cutting back to only the things that are viable, that we can use. For example, I told my children when they are studying to study something that they can use, to get the idea out of their head that they're going to be sitting down at a desk and making six figures. That is a thing of the past. It's no longer. Maybe I was also talking that maybe it's also a possibility not to go to the university. It would be more practical to study a vocation, something more practical. Because these jobs are going to be more and more in demand as more and more people are coming out of work. Here in Bordeaux, we are having a major, I don't know if you know that, this English chain, Virgin. They sell books, DVDs, records. It is a very large shop, and they are closing down in 2013 here in Bordeaux. And they have, I think, of close to maybe 100 employees. That is
wow.
For Bordeaux. Yes, and I don't know what those people are going to do. So things are getting also here in Europe. I don't know if the taxes are going to, because we talk about that. In the past years, we were able to live quite comfortably, but now. We are looking where we can skimp and trim and cut off, and we are really feeling the pinch. Yes, and another thing that I want, yes?
Constance, yes, Constance. There's a question that I've got personally here. It's a little off topic to what you were talking about, the economy in Bordeaux, but one thing I'm curious about. The news of the Connecticut shooting of the school shooting, was that a big deal?
Oh yes, we've had coverage of that in the paper, but yes, it was very, very biased because it was, the things about the guns in America. You have too many guns, and I try to explain it's not a question of guns. Because it's very complicated when I try to explain to the people, because first of all, I go into to try to talk to them about the insanity of DARPA. Now, when you say DARPA, nobody will know what this is about. And then when you go into mind control, you try to explain to them about the Navy's Air Force, about their ultrasonic computers, their brain monitoring, experimentation, the synthetic telepathy, their experimentation, and the brain chips, and uploading the mind. People think I'm coming off of the planet Mars.
Oh, I know.
So science.
I know, and folks listen to this.
People, excuse me, it's not science fiction. We are living in I don't know, reality, but many people find this so hard to grasp, because I tell people, back in January of 1999, the European Parliament, they passed a resolution where it called for the International Convention introducing a global ban on all developments and deployments of weapons which might be enabled for manipulation of the human being. So that meant also that here in Europe, they are also doing these tests with brain manipulation, mind control, which I think, why do they want this? And the military and the government are so anxious to target the civilian population. There must be a reason that they are wanting so much control over the but the people, they don't get it. And I walk out on the street and I think how are the people, they don't know what's going on. They don't know the European Parliament, how evil, how fascist, how Marxist the European Parliament is. Because I asked them when I go back alone. I'm an old lady. I go back many years. I remember I lived in Germany at that time, before the Berlin Wall came down, and me and my father, we went into East Berlin, which was the DDR, and we saw how the people lived, and they lived wretchedly. The population, they lived wretchedly. And the funny thing about it, most of the people, the police and the military on the streets, they spoke Russian. Yes? And it was very, very strange going into the day era before the Berlin Wall. And the people from the East Germany, when all of these communist officials, when the wall came down, they went they got jobs right into the European Parliament, you know? And people don't realize that. Yes, so, you know, and also communist China. I lived in China also. My husband is from China. And, you know, I always tell the horror stories that the family can tell. People don't realize. I don't know all these senators that they are, what dreamland that they are in, that I think that communism is such a wonderful thing. But anyone that has lived in a communist country knows how awful, how terrible it is, and how the government kills people, how they mind control people. They're putting people in slave camps. They are killing them. And, you know, I don't know what the senators and all the congressmen, what they think, because I don't think that neither of them, that in the end, they're going to be safe.
Well,
no,
they're not
controlling nothing. He doesn't. His handlers are controlling Obama. That's why he can play so much golf all the time. But when they get tired of him, what are they going to do with Obama? That is also my question. I don't know. But the world is going down very quickly.
It is. Now, you're obviously, if you listen to Gerald Salenti and others about the situation in Italy, and of course you mentioned Greece and Spain and France to a lesser extent. But my goodness, you know, you've got so much economic turmoil. How long do you give the European Union? Did you see it dissolving, Constance?
I really do. I think, because I don't know. But we have 5 children. I look around what is happening in the other countries, and every month the IMF is getting money from the Federal Reserve. I think that it is going to they want chaos. They want people hungry. They want all the countries like Greece. They are taking us down one by one. They are getting rid of what is happening with all these taxes? They are getting rid of the middle class. That is exactly their plan. Get rid of the middle class. And after that, when we are hungry enough, when we are in civil strife, we will accept anything at that point. I think that is what they are counting on. Look at Greece, look at Spain, look at Portugal. We are having little demonstrations, nothing serious. But right now, we are too comfortable still, because when people really, really, really start losing their jobs, and really, really start being thrown out of their homes, they will take to the streets. And that is, I think, I'm not frightened of that. It is what I say, what is the future of our children? Because we went through this in Europe. We went through this quite a long time. I wasn't born, but my parents went through this in Europe. And even here in Bordeaux, neighbors how do you say it? Calling up the police and tattling on neighbors and having them arrested. We had prison camps here they didn't call them concentration camps. They were prison camps right here in Bordeaux, where the gendarme, if anyone who does not know, is the military police. They do civilian policing. They were arresting people, and they had so much work. They had to keep employing more gendarmes to arrest the people, and they didn't have to surveil, because it was the neighbors. It was all your neighbors. It was people you worked for. It was everybody tattling, and then they was arresting dissidents. They was arresting foreigners. They was arresting Jews. They was arresting people who were running away from Franco in Spain, and that was right here in Bordeaux. So, we have gone through this before, and it's like history is beginning to repeat itself. but I don't know. But I would like to say I have purchased Mr. Stephen Square's book, Aliens and Fallen Angels.
Yes.
And that is such a wonderful book. I would advise anyone who has not read any of Mr. Quayle's books, this is a wonderful book, especially it talks about the Bible, and I did not know the New Testament, and he is such a wonderful person. He has a lot of information, and he is well studied and well informed. And I can't wait to read another book of his, Weather Wars. I want to read also.
Oh, yes. That Weather Wars is fabulous.
Yes, and he writes even very simply that even I can understand it. I read and he explains it, and it's wonderful. And I would advise anyone who does not know his books. It's wonderful. It is wonderful, and it gives insight. And for anyone who does not understand what is really happening today, it explains it. He goes through it, and I think it's wonderful insight. And he makes it in a language where everyone can, even foreigner like me, can understand it, and it's wonderful.
Beautiful. Constance, we love you. We love you. We're up against the top of that break.
God
bless
you. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
All right.
Thank you so much, Constance, all the way over there from France, our favorite France correspondent, our only France correspondent, and we hope to keep it that way. Constance, God bless you. You have a great morning or
God
evening.
God bless you and all the listeners also. Goodbye now.
Goodbye.
Take care.
Before I know that our AM stations are going to probably shoot us, but I just want to answer. I just want to say this: receiving the email, Roberta. Thank you so much for your email, Roberta. Thank you. When we on the other side, I'm going to read what she wrote because it addresses what we were talking about before the break. Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on the 26th day of December. 5 more days left of 2012. Can you believe it? I'll be right back.
No, I can't because I think there's 6.
Or whatever.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the brick pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP brick packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
Doug Hagmann. One guy that doesn't need a bullhorn to get your attention.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
And that was a short break. Welcome back, folks, to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. This is December 26, 2012. This is a live broadcast. Doug and Joe Hagmann. We are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. You can find us at HomelandSecurityUS.com. That's HomelandSecurityUS.com, not affiliated with any type of government agency. That's our home, and of course, contributing to CanadaFreePress.com, our fine neighbors and colleagues to the north. Right before the break, we heard from Constance from Bordeaux, France. God bless her. What a wonderful lady she is. A tremendous insight. And if you didn't catch that, by the way, talking about giving a little insight of what will come to America. You know, they won't have to hire people to spy on you. They will have, your neighbors will do that for them. It's something, if you listen closely when she talks, because this is what is coming to this country, like it or not. But also before the break, I wanted to let Roberta know. Folks, we get a lot of emails, and we read them all. Trust me, we do. Unfortunately, we can't. I mean, we it's just Joe and I. We don't have a staff, and so there's just no way we can answer them all. I won't. I just want to read Roberta. She says, I don't know if you even read my email. Of course we do. But as far as should we prepare? Yes, spiritual first, and for most second, physical. As God's word says, be wise like a serpent. Otherwise, know what his Roberta, man, sentence structure here. Otherwise, know what his plans ahead of time, so you can prepare.
He must be as wise as a serpent.
Yeah, exactly. Then it goes on to say, and be harmless as a dove. Otherwise, think first before you take action. Is in the big picture, prepare. Know the moves of evil before you take action, and always in prayer.
Yeah.
As and I agree with that.
Just to give you a scenario, we talk about a lot of these trigger happy people that are ready for this, World War III, Civil War to break out. What if there's a scenario where you're set up to fire a shot at someone, or you think you got the drop on someone, and you're set up to be put in that position to take the shot, so you can be, ambushed, and you don't consult the Lord before doing that, and that leads you and your eternal soul into hell forever for that one act. That's a possibility. That's why it is so important.
But wouldn't intent figure in on that?
Well, it depends. It depends on the situation. That's why we can't rely on ourselves. We can't rely on our corrupted and our faulty minds. We cannot rely on us. We can only rely on him and what comes from him.
Of that, I agree. Seriously. I find no fault in that statement, and I have to say you're right. But, Roberta, thank you for that email. And, of course, we do read them all, and we do our best to, even if it's a couple of words of acknowledgement, we do our best to respond to most. So,
all right, we're going to go to the phone calls. We're going to go to area code 304. Then we're going to go to Vernon. 304, you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
You're up, 304. That's you.
It's me?
Yeah, that's you.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Look, I'm pretty new to your show. A friend that I work with told me about it. First, I just have a few questions. I'm going to try to cover everything as fast as I can. I started learning about all this stuff from my uncle, who's no longer with us. But anyways, in the 80s, as far as I can remember, him talking about everything, before the computer, and where he got his information, I really don't know. But I remember in like '89, he talked about video cameras would be everywhere, like and not a place you could be without a video camera on you. And people thought he was so crazy. It was rare to see someone with a camera, to see him anywhere. But anyways, so that's where I got my information from, is that guy, my uncle. And he said a few things. One, he said, around this time is what he was talking about, I'm sure, is that the government would use criminals. They'd team up. Does that sound like anything familiar?
Well, it does, because our government is already teaming up with criminals. Now, there's a number of different areas that they're doing so. For example, in their covert operations, you're not going to find your stellar individuals. Of course, that's the way it's always been. but the most stellar individuals are not going to be wanting to engage in covert operations with the government. So you're gonna find criminals that will. Without more specifics, however, I'm not sure exactly what he's referring to. I can suppose, I could. There's supposition, but he sounds like a wise man.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
know he, in a way, he was saying that they were also going to be like killing people, the criminals, just killing us away, getting rid of us. Another thing is, and like I said, this is before the internet, when he was saying about the cameras and all this stuff. All his predictions came true, or there's signs of them going to. And one thing, and this is kind of weird, but he said that one day to drive a vehicle, you'd have to wear a helmet, some type of helmet. I don't know if that's ever, you've ever heard of anything like. And it sounds crazy, but I wouldn't doubt it at all if it happened. I don't know if, how long from now, but that's another thing. And
I'll tell you what. That's almost my goodness. Having to wear a helmet while driving a car. The next thing I'll be hearing from you, caller, is that they're going to be banning any drinks over 16 ounces, for crying out loud. No, I mean seriously, that's happened in New York. So he sounds like he had. He almost sounds like he read the book None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen, that was printed back in the 70s, I think in 1970, which gives great insight into what's going on. My goodness, yeah, I mean it's in 1984 as well.
He was the healthiest man I ever known. He never had the sniffles. He never had a runny nose, nothing. I mean, he took his vitamins, minerals, was very careful of what he ate, and then one day he got sick and was gone. Like once he found out he was sick, he lived like 3 months. It was like a shock to everybody. He was the most healthiest man, and before he ever got sick, he said that he was afraid to talk to some people. He said, I know this sounds really crazy, but he said that the government or whoever can control anything they want, and they could take somebody out if they wanted to. He believed that they could drive in front of somebody's house in a van and push a button, and everyone in the house that was alive would hit the ground. They've got
weapons like that.
They've came out in the 75, 55, 65 with their heart attack gun. The CIA came out and testified in front of Congress that they had a gun that will give you a heart attack.
The church committee,
like 50 years ago.
No, that was in 75. I think it's 75. The church committee, but they did have those types of weapons available back then. So think about what they have now that we don't know about.
Oh yeah, so we have no idea. And it was just kind of odd that he was such a healthy man, and then that happened. But that's besides the point. Another thing is, like, the few people that I know were talking about, preparing, and this and that, and some of them has gone as far as renting a machine to dig a hole, like a giant hole, and put, to get underground. And I was wondering, like, would that even be worth it for maybe if I believe that everything is being watched, everything, and if they seem, I believe that if you went somewhere in the woods or anywhere and started doing something like that they would know. Do you agree or no?
I do. You mean? Well, yes. First of all, I agree that the majority of this country, in particular, perhaps 100% of the cities, we'll say, the major metropolitan areas of this country are under video surveillance. But I also agree that from satellites to drones to especially drones now, surveillance has expanded to the rural areas.
Yeah,
exponentially.
And not only that, it's no matter if it's your house or not, it's really not your property. They come around and see that you're digging through some sort of surveillance means. Next thing you know, they want to know where your permit is and what you're building, and you could find yourself into some trouble.
Yeah, caller. I in fact, I'm glad you mentioned that because I do have a friend in Wisconsin, and this is really strange that you bring this up. This person was actually this person lives in a rural area in Wisconsin, and was putting in a greenhouse in the back of his home, and no neighbors, out of visual range from anywhere on the street, and got a visit from the zoning officer there. Okay, now when I say rural and zoning officer, you think, well, what's that all about? Well, the county has, in this particular county, Door County up there, they've got a zoning officer that you've got to get a special permit to do certain things, and that was one of them. So how did that work? So you're right.
See, I think digging right on the edge of your neighbor's yard and your yard on their side, that makes it a little easier for you, but could get your neighbors into trouble. But no, in all seriousness, I thought about this. Should we dig out a little like a tornado shelter, just in case things go bad, to where you could fit enough people and it's deep enough underground where if you need to get out of the way for 5-10 minutes.
Well, that makes sense if you live in a tornado alley.
But my sentiments are anymore is. I'm just trying to grow in my faith, and the Lord will have me in the right place at the right time, where He wants me to be, and that's what I got to go by. So, but I will not put down any person's preparedness, what they want to do, what they feel is right to do, or what they're being led to do. That is above and beyond my call. And I will pray that you get an answer, and then it helps.
Yes, thank you. And one of the first things that I said, I want to call them so bad, and because I want men like that to pray for me. And my name's Alan Bennett, and if you can, just remember me, pray for me. And I believe that the Lord's going to use me for something big in these days. But anyways, another thing is in your money, $5 bills on up, they have that strip, right?
Yes.
The strip inside it. So
yes.
I wonder if that is so they can monitor, like they can say fly over your house and push a button and it'll just scan they're scannable, I'm guessing, and they can roughly, guess about see how much money you have, besides change and $1 bills. Yes?
That's an interesting theory, not something I've heard of. That's an interesting theory. I'm not sure.
Well, we know that there's a metallic strip. Ever since money was printed, I mean, people have been trying to counterfeit it and stuff. So we know that there's a metallic strip in each of the paper money bills. That now, what does that do? I'm not sure, but I do know that after, I think it was 04, 05, after the modification of the paper money, there's the security strip runs along the right side of the portrait of the bills. In fact, I'm looking at a bill right now. I don't know, though, caller, what the purpose of that is aside from anti-counterfeiting. I don't know if that metallic strip is able to. Frankly, I don't know what that's. If that has something special with it. I don't know.
The anti-counterfeit thing, sure that it does that as well, but the main reason they have that in there is definitely not for counterfeit. As what I believe, and but I'm crazy, so.
No, you're not. And by the way, we will pray for you. What's your first name, caller?
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
What's your first name?
Alan.
I didn't catch that.
Alan.
Okay.
Alan.
Alan, we will pray for you because everyone needs prayers, and we certainly. We will pray for you, and I know Joe and I both. We have a special place in our heart for people who ask for prayers, and certainly
Yeah,
You know,
and we ask our body of listeners and fellow friends that they pray for you also, and that the protection of prayer be over each and every one of our listeners.
Yes. Well, I could go on for the longest time of all this stuff that I believe, but the majority of people don't because they're brainwashed and they don't even know it. But
yeah, we have a lot of that going on.
What is it?
You know, I'll tell you what. When you call on our show, sometimes depending on where you're calling from and how you're calling, there is a delay which kind of screws you up a little bit. We don't mean to talk over you, and it kind of jumbles up when people listen. It kind of jumbles up the conversation. But no, you've raised some interesting points, by the way, tonight, and we want to thank you for your call. I know you could probably go on forever.
Yeah, and Alan, feel free, please call back again, and we'll talk about some of the other things that you got on your mind. We got some other callers on hold we want to get to, and we appreciate your call, and we want to say God bless you, and we look forward to hearing from you again.
Yes, indeed, Ellen. God bless, my friend. You take care of yourself. Thanks for the call, and please keep listening and tell others about the program. God bless you.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Thanks, Alan.
Joe, I just want to say too, folks, if you can pray, say a little prayer for Marianne, one of our listeners. God bless her. She's done so much research and she's worked so hard. She's done a lot of research, and we're going to pray for Alan, but keep Marianne too in your prayers. She's tired. She's unimportant. She's doing some important work, God's work. Let me just say that, and she needs our prayers. And I know I don't know about Lucy's friend's daughter Patty. I don't know what her status is, but keep Patty in your prayers. She's the one that had taken the flu shot and suffered a reaction, was in a coma.
Yeah.
And let's
terrible.
keep. So there are people that do need our prayers, and let's keep them in mind.
Going to the next call, a familiar voice, host of Conspiracy Files here on Blog Talk Radio, Mr. Vernon. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann.
Hey, God bless, gentlemen. Thanks for taking my call, and happy holidays to everyone.
God bless you, God bless you, sir.
Okay, I'd like to answer that gentleman's question first about the metal strip. Well, that little strip that's in the $5 bills and up.
Yeah, I guess it's actually a polymer strip. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, a friend. I'm gonna call him an associate more so than a friend. Years ago, he had worked for the U.S. Mint, and his job was to put those strips in. And we were sitting up one day. He was wiggling. And he was able to pull the strip completely out. How he did it, I don't know. But he pulled it out. He said, "Do you know what it is?" I said, "No." He said, "It's an antenna, and it's tied to the satellites." Now, what his purpose is, I didn't get into that with him. But it is an antenna that is tied to those satellites that's above us.
Really?
Anyway, oh, yeah, that's what he told me. I'm only going by what he said.
Okay. No, just wow. Okay. All right.
But what I wanted to get into, as far as the gun ban issue and the whole 9 yards. First of all, I have to express my feelings whenever I'm talking about this, because the loss of life, especially when it's that of innocence, is horrendous. And, my heart is still bleeding for these children. But, folks, let's not, as they say, what's that old saying, be careful what you ask for, you just might get it. Someone had posted on on Facebook wall, and I just want to read this real quick. You know how you get those little ads in there, and you got the pictures or what have you, banners like, I don't know what you want to call it. But it says, mass murderers agree. Gun control works. Beware when a government wants to disarm its people, for they are not concerned for the people's safety, but for their own. After disarming the Soviet population, Joseph Stalin murdered 20-plus million people. After disarming the Chinese population, Mao Zedong, if I pronounced that correctly, murdered 40-plus million. After disarming the German population, Adolf Hitler murdered 14-plus million. President Barack Obama has an agenda to disarm the U.S. population. And his agenda comes out of the UN under Agenda 21. As you remember, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. Panetta had told Congress, we don't take orders from you. We take orders from the UN and NATO. And then we come back and tell you what we're going to do. This is a UN agenda to disarm the American people. Now,
Vernon, can I add that in that September 11th speech given by George Bush in 1990, when he talks about a new world order, where he says we will be successful, he goes on to talk about the new world order being based on United Nation foundation and law.
Which means for the United States, you will be under martial law. That's why we're seeing right now the destruction of our Constitution. That's why we're seeing laws being written, presidential executive orders being written, because those laws will be now done away with. As the United States, as you know it, will be done away with, will be under UN resolutions, which means the New World Order. Christ called it. When you hear of them speak of a one world government, then look up. Well, when they bring in this New World Order, they can't bring it in until the United States is disarmed. What that means is the believers in the body of the Lord Jesus Christ won't even be here. So when the New World Order come in,
Vernon, I got to tell you, disarmament to me, and I don't know, I'm sure you feel the same way. If we get to the point where the government is successful, let me rephrase that. If we get to the point where the American people allow for our own disarmament, at that point, we are now completely subjugated and slaves. Helpless, yes. I cannot. I know there are people out there who will, who talk a good game. The beer muscles behind the keyboard.
And a lot of those are trained, handgun, tactical, situations. But the weaponry against us is something we have no clue of what really lies behind those curtains.
That's true. But Vernon, you talk about this gun confiscation, disarmament. We can never, ever, 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 ever allow that to happen. And
not in my life,
my heart. No.
Yeah, not in my life. For the benefit of those, Doug and Joe, that when we talk about the New World Order, for some, a great number of people is still a conspiracy theory in their mind. They don't realize, they don't believe that this is real, that this is true, that it's coming. So for the benefit of them, let's look at it on another level, okay? We just had Detroit, Michigan Police Department tell its people, get your guns, lock your family up, because we can't protect you no more. Visitors, don't come into Detroit because we can't protect you, all right? At the same time, that police department is telling this story. What are the other departments, what are they saying? Without saying it. Already, I heard someone say that, when the police get there, the crime has already been committed. Now, there's another report. I'm going to post a couple of things in the chat room shortly, but there's a couple of articles, one out of Forbes, and one of the articles is titled, "An Arm," how do they say that? FBI crime stats show an armed public is a safer public. In other words, there's one report saying that there's been like 2.5 million defense uses in 1 year's time using a gun. Self-defense. That means someone was breaking in the home. Someone was about to be robbed on the street. Someone was about to be accosted, murdered, or whatever. But they had a sidearm, or they had a weapon, and they was able to stop that attack. Again, we had these children that lost their lives, which was horrendous. We had the Connecticut, we had Aurora, which is it's terrible crimes. But again, we have to look at what's really going on. It's not the gun. Both cases, Joe, I heard you mention there were some similarities to both cases. Both cases, these gentlemen were on mind-altering drugs in both cases. And one of my cousins, she has worked into the health care field, and I talked to her last week on the air, and I asked her, well, you know, how many of these kids, when they had behavioral problems, you know, end up on psychotic drugs? You know what her answer was?
All of them?
All of them. All of them. Okay, the pharmaceutical companies, that's just one factor, okay, other than guns that you can look at.
Right.
And then there's more factor I'm going to bring up, and then I'll let you gentlemen go. Joe, you played a video by Jesse Ventura, and what's his name, Pierce?
Pierce
Morgan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesse Ventura did when he had his show, he did a program on mind control, and people that were contacting him were talking about how they were getting voices in their head, and they were having pain, and it was all centered around these towers. And I'm going to post that video in the room as well. And my mind is, because, Doug, you asked the question, could there have been like some kind of conspiracy behind all this? And my mind is telling me, you know, if I consider the fact that these globalists are actually Satanists and how ruthless they can possibly be, then the innocence of life is no sacred ground for them.
Vernon,
So,
you know something? Yeah, let me tell you something, Vernon. What you just said there is, and I really hope people really listened to that statement that you made, because, you know, shouldn't we at least have an honest intellectual discussion, or can't we have an honest intellectual discussion about situations like this? If they're talking about banning these terrible, ugly, scary-looking weapons, and not really addressing the people using them, if they're allowed to go that far onto, you know, to one end, without being laughed at, or without the fear of laughter, or the fear of being labeled a conspiracy nut or kook, wouldn't really a logical and an honest discussion or area of discussion be, could there not be some, or isn't it possible that there's something more to this between the pharmaceuticals and perhaps mind control itself? I mean, it's not that far out of the realm of possibility. So why not address this? And so what you said there is to me is important, because you're opening up this, looking at these situations. You've got so many. I just find, you know, Vernon, don't you find the shootings very convenient to the agenda of this administration?
Not only convenient, but, you know, the average person, okay, even the criminal, the average criminal, they're not out to hurt little babies, little children.
Yes, I agree.
You know,
that's.
I mean, you know, if you had an ounce, just an ounce of respect or sacred, you know, a child's life is sacred, and if you have the ounce of respect, you're not going to do this. These boys were on mind-altering drugs. I believe they don't even know what they were doing. They don't even know where they were at.
What can I say to that? Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I could be wrong, but, again, it's not the guns.
No, yeah, I agree.
I agree we have to have some control of who's able to get guns. Like if you have a psychotic background, yes, bar them from guns. But to say we're going to eradicate these weapons from our society, keep in mind, be careful what you do when you do it, because now once they have taken these guns out of your hands, okay, then you have a government that's already running rampant. Now they can march in and do what they will without any reprisal, because you allowed them to take your self-defense. Now you're nothing more than a puppet. And one of the things that is scary about this whole scenario, they admitted they want to eradicate you, 2/3 of you from the earth.
That's
this
right.
has been omitted.
It's you're 100% correct,
Yes.
and people can't see. People don't understand, Vernon, the satanic agenda, that mentality, because we're not wired. You and I and Joe and the listeners we're not wired to think that way. We're not wired to think that we are like the royalty, and everyone else is just the worker. You know, what you call it, the people that would do the work for them, and once the work is done, to discard the human life. It's an incredible thought process once you start really getting into the mindset of these people, and then so. Oh yeah,
It's also a spirit. It's also the spirituality.
True.
Just like Joe was saying. Because. Just like the scripture says in Ephesians, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. The flesh and blood is only their minions. But we actually are wrestling against Satan and his forces. This is the battle. We have a spiritual war that is taking place and has spilled over into the physical. And this is what we're starting to see the ramifications of. And Joe, you're 100% right. Pastor Paul is 100% right. Our last defense is the body of Christ in prayer. And your personal relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ is the only ark of safety that you have. And if you say no to it, then you're saying no to the Lord Jesus Christ, who died on the cross in your place, because it was supposed to be you on the cross. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life. It was supposed to be me on that cross, but Jesus took my place.
Amen.
And because of that, we have an enemy that I can't see him. I can't fight him. But with Jesus on my side, he fights all my battles. And this is where we at, folks. We got to keep our eyes focused, regardless of what takes place around us. We have to keep our eyes focused on the Lord Jesus Christ. And with that I'm going to say, God bless, and everyone, just keep looking up. Thank you, John.
All right. Vernon, thank you, and post those links in the chat room. We got some people looking for them.
Yes. God bless you.
Will do.
All right, my friend.
All right.
Host of the Conspiracy Files.
Yes, found on Blog Talk Radio each Thursday night, 6 to 8 p.m. We're going to move to the phone lines here. area code 865. We're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Thank you for your patience. What is on your mind tonight?
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you both for your great work. Mr. Hagmann, Senior Hagmann, I've tried desperately to get on air every time that you've been on with Mr. Jones, and unfortunately have not been able to get on air at that time.
Oh.
But, thank you very much for your work. I greatly appreciate it.
Well, thanks. You mean to listen or to watch or listen? Is that what you mean to get on? Or in other words, because you can find the YouTube videos, I believe, of me on...
yeah, if you send an email to my father or myself, we can send you the links to the previous appearances if you would like them.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I called in is we have one last shot at stopping this chaos. It is going after the media, and it is going after their advertisers and presenting them in a very bad light. I don't know if you're familiar with the columnist who printed all of the concealed carry weapons holders in New York State.
Yes.
All right. Counterintelligence in regards to this. I went on this as soon as I found it, and I found all the ways to contact the actual management team and the owners of the company to get to them. But it has now been printed, and it's now Google's, which I don't believe in Google, but Google Earth, they have now identified the home of this journalist.
Right.
Until we take them to task, and let me give out that information if anybody is wondering, because it's been kept very concealed. His name is Dwight R. Worley. His address is 23006 139 Avenue, Springfield Garden, New York, 11413. Is his address, and his telephone number, but the phone is off the hook, is area code 718-527-0832, which I started calling at 6 o'clock this morning.
Oh, wow.
And of course couldn't get through.
All right, now this is the gentleman, and we let this go over the air because I have a very strong feeling about this. Normally we would have not done that, but boy, what's good for the goose is certainly good for the gander. I suppose that's kind of yeah. But here's the situation with that. Now, this is the individual who made public that information, right? Is what you're saying?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, he printed it.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
think about this. These are over 40,000 people that are now endangered for their lives because now they know those that are out there that are evil know where the guns are. And
right.
They can now home invade to get those guns.
Well, they also know. They also know that if they come into that house, they are in danger of taking a slug.
Well, yeah, and I'd be, here's the thing. I would be a little bit more upset if I wasn't listed on one of those on that map, only because that makes my home a target, or me a target for a home invasion. You're right in the sense that these homes that have been published having guns in them, of course, you don't know what kind of guns, but certainly they're targets for people to go in and steal the guns. On the other hand...
Well, my dad actually made a very good point, which I humbled myself when I said, I'm so worthy of your knowledge. I did not think of this, but you're absolutely correct. No, actually, what this man did is he targeted all the homes that didn't have a gun and how easy it is now to pick them off.
Right, yeah. That's exactly right. Now, in your research, did this Dwight man do and I'm not sure if that's in Rockland or Westchester County. Did he have a concealed weapons permit? Do we know?
I don't know. I'm assuming that he didn't, because certainly if you did, you would never have published anything like that.
Well, now, so Dwight at 139 Avenue in Springfield, New York, certainly, or Springfield Garden, New York, doesn't have a gun apparently, or you know.
If somebody were to go in there, he couldn't defend himself?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, that's what I'm getting from this.
There's a great video up right now on I think it's the Drudge Report, where there was that's another video. I'm sorry, but there was an article that you all were talking about with the psychotropic drugs, and there's an article up on Drudge tonight where there was a gentleman who was improperly identified as a mental patient that escaped.
Right. Yes.
And they took him and they doused him with all sorts of drugs, which created a major medical issue for him. And then all the state and the hospital can say is, "We're so sorry."
Yeah. Whoops. Yeah, it's a psychotropic mental or psychotropic storm. Oh man, but yeah, misidentification too of the person. But wow, what a nightmare. But back to your original point about the guns and about publishing the information. You said something about going after the advertisers.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I put her on hold. I'll bring her back here.
I wasn't sure if that was a...
Did a zombie just run through your living room?
Yeah.
Yes,
Just
it
kidding.
was. It was a 16-year-old son.
Oh, okay.
Video game.
Well,
sounds like me 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's all right. You made a point, though. You were saying something about going after the advertisers. Is that,
Yes.
Okay. And I'm for that.
I mean, it has to be done at a local level, all right? Because local equals regional. Once you get to regional, then you can get to the national level. But if in your town, if you choose to see a particular, whether it's print, because I've done this personally. Power Auction, which is a great conservative unit with their advertising, so on and so forth. I caught them advertising in a liberal newspaper. And called them on it. Told them that I was no longer going to use their services any longer because they advertised in this particular paper. You talk about the biggest backstep and and then you get this whole conversation. I'm so sorry, I didn't realize that it was a liberal newspaper. I said, well, the next time check where you're advertising. Because I don't have to advertise with you. I don't have to do business with you.
Right.
But in order to put the pressure on the local market, which once it gets to the local market, we'll go to it regionally. If you choose not to participate, not to buy, not to comply with the other businesses that are participating. One very good place to go and look is mybarackobama.com.
MyBarackObama.com, that's right. Yep.
Right. And you can actually click on there by zip code to see actually what business is and to actually donated to Barack Obama's campaign.
Yes, you can. And I want to thank you for bringing that point out. Yes. People don't know that, but you can identify.
Then you can just, right. And from there, you can just contact them going, you know what, I'm never doing business with you again because, and this is why.
Exactly. And I want to thank you for the call. By the way, thank you for that information, too, because now I'm getting emails already saying accusing me of invading people's privacy for giving out email or giving out the home address.
Yeah, right. Get out of here.
No, I'm serious. I got like 3 right now.
Well,
right
if they understand, they probably caught part of the story.
No, I know, but no, of the gentleman's name and address.
Yeah, the reason was because he released 40,000 records of gun holders in their state, and the bloggers already released his name on the newspaper, so it really was a waste of nothing.
Exactly. So
no harm, no foul.
Exactly.
God bless you, caller.
Thank
you so much for the information.
All right, well, here, let me just add this. So to shut those up on the other side that are giving you a hard time, it simply says, because it says Google Earth at the bottom of it. Because remember, all of our houses have been tagged and bagged.
Oh, yeah.
He shouldn't have a problem with the info being published, since he has no problem publishing all of the law-abiding new work.
That's right.
Exactly.
Have gun permits.
I love the people that cry for privacy after they have taken measures to ensure others don't have any.
Yes, and that's why we let it go. But I want to thank you very much for your call. And you're right. The fight is on the local level too. At the local level, when you get in matters like this, hit the advertisers. Do it at the local level. Go for it. It's very effective. You're very, very astute. Thank you so much for your call. And tell your
gentlemen. Thank you.
Tell your 16-year-old son to switch to decaf. Get off the Mountain Dew.
Oh, I know, seriously.
God bless you. Have a great
care.
night. She hit on terrific points.
Yes,
and if only people could get behind this hitting the advertiser campaign. Look at what happened with Chick-fil-A before they turned back to pro-homosexual or whatever.
Did they really turn
From
back?
what I understand, they caved in. Okay,
I just want to make sure
but look
about that.
at the effect it had off the bat.
Just a tremendously See,
if we all could combine under the sense of freedom and unity and love of the Republic of America, even if you're not a Christian, how can you be against freedom for yourself and your family? How could you want your parents, grandparents, your children to be slaves to international bankers, regardless of your religious affiliation? Can't we come together under the common bond of freedom and shut down these ugly government corporation, NGOs, UN, these organizations of Satan that have developed tools against are attacking each and every one of us on every level of our lives? Can't we come together against the people who help fund and promote them at the very least? And if we can't, what hope do we have?
Very well said. You're exactly right. And that's what this fiscal cliff is all about, too.
I say that as I did my Christmas shopping, getting gift cards at Walmart and, and I feel bad about that.
No,
but I did do a lot of local shopping this year, a lot more than usual.
Support your local businesses.
I got all your presents at a local shop, so.
Yeah, it's called the 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
No. One thing too. This fiscal cliff. I just want to mention this because what we're doing here with the money. Money is what money is. It represents the work, our efforts, our toil, our labor, our time. And we are actually being enslaved by debt, by false debt at that. And what this regime is doing, including the fictitious Republican Democrat paradigm, what this regime is doing is we are not only enslaving what remains of ourselves, but our children and our grandchildren, and everybody is okay with that. Through this debt that we are amassing. So think about money not as paper, but as a receipt for your time.
Yeah,
for your life.
And a means to an end.
Well, yeah, but see.
90 seconds.
You're actually enslaving the next generation. And imagine that.
It's already done. They're enslaved. We are fully enslaved and just don't know it yet.
True.
Cannot see the confines of our cage until they lay the hammer down, which won't be long. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank each and every one of you for this wonderful show we had tonight and joining us, whether you listen live or you're listening to this via archive. We want to just thank you so much for sharing this experience with us as our show continues to grow. We've already outnumbered ourselves for last month already, again, as we continue to do so, and we couldn't have done it without you, and especially all the glory goes to the Lord because He is the Almighty, and without Him, nothing is possible.
Amen. God bless everyone, and until tomorrow night, stay safe.